evening and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Julie Grand, helping out all this week, filling in for Vinny while he's off. OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney and her boyfriend Christian Obumseli moved into their 22nd floor apartment in the Juan Paraiso building back on January 6th of 2022. And over the course of the 3 months that the couple was living in that building, the police and the building security would respond to their unit more than 10 times. The couple quickly became known to building staff and to building security for their domestic disputes, for their loud fights that led to noise complaints and violent interactions that were witnessed in the building's common areas. They were even threatened with eviction at one point. Now, that would all end on April 3rd, 2022, when Courtney Clenny would fatally stab Christian Obumseli in their home. Now, a civil lawsuit filed on behalf of the Obumseli estate is alleging that the building staff and building security were aware of Courtney Clenny's history of disturbances, her erratic and aggressive behavior, and recent mental health diagnosis before the day that Christian Obumseli was killed. And the allegation is that the security stood outside of the door during the fight that left Christian Obumseli dead. We want to show you some of the documents and what they state in part. On April 3rd, 2022 at 4:45 p.m., the front desk received complaints about noise coming from the unit. Front desk personnel Marvin Durant called the police and advised that there was a fight going on in Unit 2201. Mr. Durant was asked if emergency medical services were required, to which he responded no. Now, they just required the services of the police. Now, it goes on to say that at 4:45 p.m., building security arrived at the Clenny unit, knocked on the door, heard yelling through the door, stood outside, and did nothing. At 4:57 p.m., 12 minutes after the front desk was first notified and told the police that EMS was not required, Courtney Clenny placed this call to police herself.
Ma'am, listen to me. You need to stop screaming on the line and give me the address.
I'm gonna die. I can't feel my arm. I can't feel my arm.
Ma'am,
so my boyfriend is dying of a stab.
Ma'am, what is the address?
What's the address? Northeast 7th Ave. Please, God, please come see my boyfriend.
Ma'am, is this a house apartment or a business? Is this a house apartment or a business?
Baby, I'm so sorry.
Was it murder or was it self-defense? That's going to be the question for the jury when this case goes to trial. Tonight, we have a very special guest joining us on the program. I want to welcome in, Kim Wald. She is the attorney representing the Obumseli family. She's joining us tonight from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Kim, good evening to you. Nice to see you. Thank you for being with us. When I read through the amendments that you made to the complaint with these additions, it's pretty chilling. How did you come to discover this information about security being so close to that fatal fight?
Well, that evidence is actually from the security's own documents. It's from the management company and the apartment complex's own documents. This is from the police report documents that they've really documented every single occurrence, every single red flag that occurred here. And it is quite chilling when you go through all of the evidence that in this 3-month period leading up to this murder, there was notice after notice after notice. And the fact that nothing was done is absolutely outrageous. And that's why we filed this lawsuit, because they have to do better. When you have these type of notice, you can't simply ignore them.
Kim, what would be your response to anyone saying, well, they weren't the police, they wouldn't necessarily have the right to enter that building? What do you say to that, please?
They absolutely had the right. When you look at the lease itself, they had the right to enter into that unit. You know, if this was a water leak or if this was a fire, they would have broken down that door and entered into that unit with absolutely no problem. They had a duty to the residents of that building, they owed a duty to Christian. And the fact that they did nothing, that they started this eviction process and then withdrew the eviction process, and then on the night of this murder had notice and stood outside of the door for 12 minutes and did nothing, they absolutely had a duty to enter into that unit to stop this murder from occurring, and they could have evicted them long before this night even occurred in the first place.
Kim, reading through the different averments in the suit that you filed, something that really jumped out at me and many of my colleagues here at Court TV was that it is apparently it was made known by Courtney Clenny to building personnel that she was suffering from untreated severe borderline personality disorder. What more can you share with us about that?
Absolutely. So during this process of eviction, there was notice after notice, and Miss Clenny had been notified from building management, from the general manager of One Paraiso, that she needed to leave, that this eviction process was taking place, and that the police were going to come and escort her out of the building in the coming weeks. And her response to that was to notify them that she had recently been diagnosed with this severe personality disorder and was taking medication that would not take into effect for at least another month. In response, the building management, instead of doing the right thing, instead of continuing the eviction process, said, you know what, let's forget about it. You go ahead, continue this violent behavior, continue treating Christian this way, and we'll forget about it as long as you pay your rent. She also had been an entire month behind in rent. So the apartment complex was more worried about money and getting their rent than actually providing safety that they were required to. So just a few days after they were on notice that they had a woman who had a history of volatile behavior, now known and coupled with the fact that she had this mental health condition that was not treated, they still allowed her to reside. They still allowed this behavior to continue, and they did nothing to protect Christian.
Kim, I want to talk to you more about Christian, please, because we know a lot about the facts of the case that have been certainly made very, very public, through the DA's, press conference announcement of the charges against Courtney Clenny. We know the charges didn't even come right away. There was quite an investigation. But in terms of what more can you tell us about Christian tonight? Who does he leave behind? How is his family doing? Tell us a little bit more of the personal story about who he was, if you would, please.
Christian was a really special human being. He was part of this family that just did absolutely everything together. His parents, his brother, his cousins, this was a family that spent every holiday together, that, spoke on the phone frequently, that celebrated every moment in life together. And the family continues to be re-victimized by this tragedy. Not only was their son brutally murdered, but now they have to face the apartment complex that should have done better, to face the security company that should have done better. They're seeking justice in this case, and they know that justice will prevail because they don't want to see what happened to their family, to their son, happen to anyone else.
No, certainly not. I can't think of anything worse for a parent to have to bury their child. I say it on Court TV often, and it's very true. I think it is just one of the most awful things you could think about for any parent to have to do, and especially him being such a young man with so much of his life ahead of him. Something that has personally troubled me, and I'm very curious what the court will do in terms of an evidentiary ruling on this, was that, as I understand it, there was a stabbing prior to this, where Courtney Clenny had stabbed Christian Obumseli in the leg. And there's some documentation pertaining to that. I believe some text messages that were obtained through his phone where he's talking about that treatment. Kim, any ideas as to whether or not that's going to be coming in to the criminal case?
Well, these are all going to be, ruled upon in the criminal case. The criminal case is more focused on the night of the murder itself. The civil case is more focused on the history of the crime between these two individuals and the fact that there was this history of violence. You know, there's this difference in the justice system between criminal and civil, different burdens of proof as well. And whether or not these prior instances will come in the criminal case, that's something that, you know, I'm sure there will be additional briefings and rulings upon by the judge in the very near future.
Sure. Please keep us posted of any more developments that you have with your civil cases. We know it's running parallel to the criminal case that we're following closely with Courtney Clenny being in court next week for her next hearing date. Attorney Kim Wald, thank you kindly for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we're going to take a look at who Courtney Clenny is. And here's what's ahead in our next hour of Closing Arguments. In this hour of Closing Arguments, in Venice, Florida, Maya Kowalski's story was seen by millions in the Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya. And now, after deliberating for just over 16 hours, over 3 days, a Florida jury has reached a verdict. Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital has been found liable for all of the Kowalski's civil claims. And the jury has awarded the Kowalskis hundreds of millions of dollars. We'll break down all the latest.
1. Did Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital falsely imprison Maya Kowalski without legal authority under circumstances that were unreasonable and unwarranted between October 7th and October 13th, 2016? Yes.
Last night, detectives arrested Brian Christopher Kohlberger.
An all-new Court TV special.
4 University of Idaho students were found brutally murdered.
Profiling an accused killer.
In Moscow, Idaho, it's just unheard of.
If I'm the parent of one of these 4 kids,
I do know that there's enough evidence.
He is the boogeyman.
The case against Brian Kohlberger, a Court TV special, premieres Sunday night, 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Have you taken any alcohol or medication or narcotics today?
No.
No?
I have just like medicine, but nothing that was mind altering.
Oh, okay. Like what?
I actually don't know what it's called. Taking the medication. It's very.
What's the medication for? If you don't mind me asking.
That was Courtney Clenny speaking to police after stabbing her boyfriend Christian Obumseli to death back on April 3rd, 2022. Now, Courtney Clenny's medical information was redacted from that video, but we're learning a lot more about it tonight from that lawsuit we've been talking about that was filed on behalf of the estate of Christian Obumseli. After a series of domestic violence disturbances, the general manager of the Juan Pariso apartment building emailed Courtney Clenny that she and Christian Obumseli were being evicted. Now, Clenny's response to that email provided us with some more insight into her mental state. As the document reads, quote, Ms. Clenny emailed the general manager of Juan Pariso advising him that she had been recently diagnosed with a severe borderline personality disorder and had begun taking medication to address her disorder. She also advised that the medication should take effect after a month or so. Now, the filing goes on to say that after disclosing her borderline personality disorder diagnosis, the general manager advised Courtney Clenny that she could remain inside her unit as long as she caught up on her rent payments. Just a few days later, police would respond to another dispute between Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli. Their interaction with Clenny was captured on body camera footage.
Right now, like, I have not always been a victim, but, like, right now I'm a freaking victim in the situation. I was scared to go downstairs and walk my dogs. I just walked them and I told them, you don't have a chance, and now all of a sudden this is all happening.
What's his name?
Christian Tobecha Crew Obumseli.
Christian?
Please, just, like, don't get me kicked out of my own apartment.
We just want to get him. We just want to.
I'm scared. I'm scared of him at this point.
And it was just a day later when Christian Obumseli was fatally stabbed. I want to welcome in my guest. Joining me tonight from Pennsylvania, nationally recognized relationship expert and author, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. And in Orlando, Florida, trainer in threat assessment and domestic violence expert, body language expert as well, Susan Constantine. Wonderful to have you brilliant ladies on the show with me tonight. Oh, Dr. Sue, let me start with you, please, in the untreated borderline personality disorder. Let's take a step back. Educate us, if you would, Dr. Sue. What is borderline personality disorder? In her case, she calls it severe borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a little bit because it's important to understand what this is and what it isn't. First of all, borderline personality disorder, simply put, is an unstable personality disorder where there's a lot of emotional uncertainty of what is going to happen. And what this deals with is a love-hate relationship. It comes from most times interpersonal relationships early on in a child's development with parents, where love is given and love is taken away. If you look at what's happening in these videos and you look at the stabbings, you can tell, I think, that what is going on here is a love-hate relationship between the two of them. 1 minute she's as happy as could be with him, the next minute she's not. Sometimes with borderline personality disorder, there is violence that can take place. There is suicidal tendencies that happen where they say that I'm going to kill themselves, but they really don't kill themselves. One thing to be aware of is that treating these disorders is extremely difficult, and the rate of recovery from this is very low. So I'm not sure what the medication is doing for her in these instances. Not much.
Mm-hmm. Right, Dr. Sue, not much. We've got some evidence of not much. We have that elevator video, the video that's really gone viral of that fight. And I want to play this. And Susan Constantine, I really want to tap into your expertise with body language, domestic violence, threat assessments. We see her get in first, and then he follows her in. And it is the position of the Clenny attorneys. They've come on Court TV multiple times saying that it's their position that they think this helps them. They've said that she didn't want him inside the video, or inside the elevator, excuse me, and that the video shows her upset when he enters the elevator and follows her up. Now, that's their position. Of course, you know, they are her advocates. They're excellent attorneys, and they're going to say that. Tell me what you see, Susan, here when he gets on and the attack starts pretty quickly thereafter.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to start with when she's starting to walk in. She holds that door open. So she's waiting for him to come in. Then she becomes angry, starts pouncing on that machine right there, okay, the elevator. So once he gets in there, yes, she's mad, but once he's in there, that's when she starts to attack him. She is the aggressor. He is trying to fend her off. And just like Dr. Sue said, that there is this loss of impulsivity control. She has, in this severe borderline personality disorder, that is what we call a dangerous demeanor. Joe Navarro wrote a book on dangerous personality. One of them was that you can't have a relationship with this type of person because they're out of control. They have an impulsivity issue. They have emotional regulation issues, and you can see that acting out. So in threat assessment, we're looking at behavioral signatures that lead up to a possible imminent violence that could lead to death. And that's exactly what happened here.
Right, Susan. And when we think of the violence, there's no doubt about it. This relationship was as toxic as it gets. And when we think about all of the signs that happened prior to this date, it was a dangerous relationship. The Clenny attorneys, their position is going to be that she was being abused. And of course, the prosecution's position is that he was being abused. And I wonder if this abuse was perhaps mutual in this relationship. Dr. Sue, would you talk to us about that? Is it possible that this was a two-way street here?
Absolutely, Julie. And I was thinking about that today before you even asked me the question. What I think has happened here is that this is a chaotic, toxic, abusive relationship between two people, much like we saw in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, but thank God nobody died there. But again, why would somebody continue to stay with somebody that is abusing them like this? We have to think about that too in terms of why he was staying and tolerating this. If you look also in the elevator, you see when he goes in, look closely. There's a smirk on his face while this is happening. And then if you look at all the other information from the court documents, which I have reviewed, he keeps going back after he's being hit by her, after he's being put down by her. He's begging back for her. So this tells me that these are two people that are trauma bonded.
I was just going to ask you about that, Dr. Sue. And so that term, I want you to take us to school. Does this happen when there's so much toxicity and all that? It's not a healthy relationship for anybody, yet they feel stuck. They can't let go. They're kind of addicted to this toxic bond.
Absolutely. So a trauma bond is when two people find each other because they share similar qualities between them and they bond over that and they express the trauma between each other. They feed off of each other. They feed off of the chaos because they both probably came from traumatic backgrounds and they found each other and didn't know how to deal with the abuse that they had already experienced. We don't develop personality disorders out of nowhere. No one's a narcissist just because you're born a narcissist or have borderline personality or history on it. It all comes from early on interpersonal relationships that were unhealthy.
This is so helpful. I have so many more questions for you both. We're at the bottom of the hour, so we have to hit a break. But please, Dr. Sue Kornbluth, Susan Constantine, stand by. Please do the same at home. Up next, the killing of Christian Obumseli came after several explosive incidents between him and his girlfriend, Courtney Clenny. We're going to look at Courtney and Christian's volatile relationship and how it developed next.
When it is 5 a.m.
Decide whether or not you're done gaslighting me. Decide whether or not you're done gaslighting me.
I am mad that you told me to
decide right now.
Courtney, that's a... I asked you so many times that I don't know, and I apologize, but you hit me.
Shut the don't.
A Wisconsin woman accused of killing her friend with eye drops.
And then defrauding her for over $250,000.
The state believes this defendant has evidenced her capacity to take advantage of at-risk individuals.
Was the victim trying to commit suicide,
or was she murdered for money?
The Eye Drops murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
both my dogs better be in that
right there.
You are so lucky both my dogs.
Stop hitting me.
No, because you let my dogs.
I'm looking at for you.
My dogs.
My bad.
Me, my dogs are more important.
my bad. I'm just making.
No, not your bad. Give me something. Give me something better than my bad.
I'm sorry. Okay, Courtney, just stop it.
It's really scary to listen to, isn't it? That's domestic violence right there. That's what's going on here, and that's what we're talking about tonight with this case between defendant Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli, her boyfriend, that she fatally stabbed. Was it murder or was it a killing in self-defense? Well, that's going to be up for a jury to decide, and next week Courtney Clenny will be back in court. Tonight, though, we're analyzing this volatile relationship and hopefully be able to learn some things about the dangers of being involved in a relationship that has components of domestic violence. I've got two experts on the show tonight. Dr. Sue Kornbluth and Susan Constantine. Susan, you are an expert in domestic violence. You do threat assessments. I want to play for you something here that our producers at Court TV put together. We obtained text messages between Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli where he's describing being stabbed on that other occasion by her. You heard me mention it earlier in the show to his family attorney. Let's listen to a portion of those messages now, and we'll talk on the other side.
The crazy thing about all of this is that yesterday, when you stabbed me in the leg and you saw how bad it was hurting me and I couldn't walk, I couldn't do and you were telling me I wish I could have taken your pain away. I wish it was me and not you. The next morning, I still woke up happy. I still gave you a good day even though my leg was hurting because my girlfriend stabbed me. So you're telling me you can't do the same thing the next day and say, whatever happened last night, today's a new day. Because that's what I do for you. I woke up happy. I took you to Vegas to get your drove right back, helped you shoot, drank with you, did blow with you, just so you're having a great day. And I'm doing all of this while my leg hurts so bad. Did I make you feel like for stabbing me? No, I just sucked it up and hope tomorrow will be better.
If you decide to get security, call. I will tell them exactly what happened.
Susan, when we think about the dangers at play, they're assessing the lethality of this relationship at that point in time. What would you say to that, please?
I'm sorry, what did you ask me?
If you had to assess the lethality of that relationship at that point in time after the stabbing that was non-fatal, being recognized by him, and then we saw how his response is, but I'm hoping you have a good day today, even though you stabbed me yesterday.
You know, I don't know why guys or women seem to think that the other partner, someone is going to change, right? They tend to think it maybe it's their fault, that if they continue on this best behavior, that maybe they'll change, the situation will change. Bottom line is, it will never change. When a person hits you the first time, you need to get out. Don't wait till the second time, because you may not have a second time. And reviewing those text messages, it is obvious to me that he is coming from a place more of compassion and love and trying to mend this. I didn't hear any sort of what we call anger, contempt, and disgust, which are precursors to him committing imminent violence. But when you listen to some of her reactions, you can pick out the anger words, the contempt words, the disgust words, which were all what we call an Anaconda triad. That triad is a precursor to imminent violence. So I teach this course on how to detect if you are in a dangerous situation. Why? Because people tend to dismiss them, right, Dr. Sue? I mean, we tend to, I don't know why, but they do. And just like what she was saying, is that they're trigger bonding, right? That trauma bonding. They're both wounded, and you go through that Erickson, part of their life, and you see all the different fractures, and all they're doing is trying to find someone that's going to help heal their fractures. But they are so fractured, there's no fixing them. And these types of people, you can't fix them. And Dr. Sue, I know, will attest to this. There's nothing that you can do to heal them. They are who they are, and they will always be that way. Get out now before you end up like them.
That's right. That was, I think, the greatest sign of the lethality that was to come. I mean, it truly was, because we're not even just talking about a strike with a fist, or not that I'm minimizing that, I am not, but I mean, this is with a weapon, with a deadly weapon. So we have a strike with a weapon that punctured his leg, sent him to the hospital. If that isn't all the indication one needs, I don't know what is. I have another clip, and Dr. Sue, I'm going to go to you on the other side of this one. This was after a trip to Las Vegas. Apparently, Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli had to be separated at their hotel. They got into an altercation there. Their statements to police captured on body camera footage. Let's watch.
More of the story, like I was on the couch, like she threw the glass thing at my face. Then I went back to bed. Like, I was like, why'd you do that? Okay, I go to the bed. I understand that she was mad, but I wasn't doing anything. I was on the couch.
Do you remember throwing the glass?
No, I don't.
But that sounds like me, so.
Okay, another indication of how dangerous this relationship was. Dr. Sue Kornbluth, tell me what you see in looking at Christian Obumseli there, please.
I see a lot there. I want to also say I agree with everything that Susan just said. But in that clip right there, he seems like he's defeated, like he can't take this anymore. And he is exhausted from what's going on. And she's sitting across from him or in another cell, whatever this is, saying, I don't know, I don't really want to take accountability for this, which goes along with the borderline personality disorder. But maybe I did it. Look, Julie, this is, to me, about one thing: abandonment issues. And he's a rescuer, and he feels somewhere inside of him that he can take care of her, he can change her. Like Susan said, no, you can't. We've talked about this before. The only person that you can change in this lifetime is yourself. You cannot change other people. And so when we want to change other people, what we do is continually bang our head against the wall. And you know what we call that? Insanity. And that's exactly what is going on here if you look very closely.
Isn't that the truth? Dr. Sue and Susan Constantine, what I want to end the segment on with you both is last bits of advice from the both of you. If there's somebody watching tonight, because I just want to say this, domestic violence is common. It is very common. It affects all of us. If it hasn't happened to you personally, it surely happened to someone that you know. And the more we talk about it, the more we can prevent it, the more we can combat it. So best piece of advice, Susan, for someone watching tonight thinking, oh gosh, I've had some close calls, what do I do next?
You get out of the relationship and you empower yourself. You surround yourself with people that will support you and build you up so that you don't go into that bad relationship. People that will speak truth into your life, and stay away from those types of environment, and don't second guess yourself. The first indicator is the one indicator. It's all you need. Get out. After that, don't ever go back.
That's great advice. Don't let there be a second time. One should be enough. Dr. Sue, to you, a piece of advice you have for our viewers, please.
Get a plan. Make a plan before you get out. It's not so easy all the time to get that courage up to leave. But with a plan and some help, you can do it. And don't forget this, everybody. We're living in a time now where domestic violence is happening to men and women.
That's right. That's right. And there are so many agencies locally that have trained advocates who specialize in creating those safety plans. Now, I am certainly not putting myself out there as a domestic violence expert. I am not. I do volunteer, though, in the domestic violence prevention movement. I work with an organization based in Western Pennsylvania. Got to learn of their great work when I served as a prosecutor in Pittsburgh. And I volunteer in a program they have with canine court advocates who help support survivors in the courtroom and also privately in therapy. And the executive director of the center and I, will talk about how they are so good at what they do. They can make somebody disappear. If they need to remove somebody from an unsafe situation and protect them from their abuser, knowing where they go, what they do, they can do that. So the help is there. It's just a matter of reaching out and reaching out safely. Susan, on that point, if someone is looking to reach out to a local agency where they live and try to get a plan in place, but maybe they're afraid that their abuser might be looking over their shoulder at their computer, or maybe go through their cell phone search history, things like that, because we know abusers, I mean, they are stealth, they are controlling. It's all about power and control. What advice do you have for someone who's looking to start the safety plan? How might they go about initiating it without their abuser learning of it?
Sure. For the first thing is we have a wonderful program here. It's at the Ronald McDonald House, and you go there. It's a safe house, just as you explained. And then they can go there. They can stay there. If they have children, they can stay there. They will protect you and keep you safe. The other thing you need to do is file an injunction. go before the judge. They'll have an advocate like myself who used to be in there and be with you in the courthouse to make sure that you had your hearing heard and hopefully to work towards getting your long-going injunction, your permanent injunction, so that he can't come near you. This is a real problem because, you know, what got me into it was a friend of mine filed an injunction. The judge didn't give it to her. And then he was let out, ended up killing his daughter and himself. So she started the Court Watch program. So a lot of these things, you know, and I know that Dr. Sue probably feels this way, and also you, Julie, this is personal to us because we're actually working it. We're not just talking about
That's
it.
right.
This is us. This is what we do. We're not just on Court TV as speaking heads. We're working in the industry to helping people, especially those that have suffered domestic violence.
Thank you for saying that, Susan. Thank you for that. And there's so much more work to do. If you at home have an interest in helping in the prevention movement, by all means, agencies are looking for people like you who are an ally to people in the movement who need to keep their families safe, their children safe, their pets safe. We all know there's an intersection between child abuse and animal abuse that goes along with domestic violence. It's a sick trifecta with these people. Dr. Sue Kornbluth, back to you, please. On the point of the safety plan, going about it the right way, batterers, the way they think, it's really sinister how they try to control their victims. Help us kind of understand what happens when the batterer thinks they might be losing control.
Well, when the batterer thinks they're losing control, what ends up happening is they put on more control and they try to scare the person even more and threaten them more and try to keep them closer to them. You have to be aware of these symptoms, okay? And so look for them. If you're in a domestic violence situation, you know what's going on, and I know it's scary for you, but there are hotlines that you can call. When your abuser is out of the house, go on the computer, find some free help. Talk to anybody that can help you to set out a plan to leave.
That's right. That's right. Let your close family and friends know what's going on so they know to look for the signs, your neighbors, people who can help protect you and keep you safe.